Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss a very important poet, and the name of that poet is Alexander Pope. Pope belongs to 18th century. Uh, in English literature, 18th century is quite famous for his logical poetry. Pope and Dryden belong to a neoclassical school of poetry. They are the two major poets who represent the new classical age. And what is neoclassical? Classical, you know that the thing, the literature, the art which is perfect. And the neoclassical they are called because they have revived the tradition of classical poetry, and they followed the Roman and Greek classics. They consider them as their idol, and they try to copy their style of writing and their subject of writing, and they stressed this is the basic characteristics of neoclassical school of poetry, that they stressed on clarity and balance in words. So there is no ambiguous or emotional, you can say, or hypothetical or imaginative. In simple words, we can say that there is nothing that sort of writing in their poems. They have used a very balanced approach. Dryden and Alexander Pope has written most of their poems in heroic couplet. That's why they have refined it, they have polished it, and they have used that pattern. And Alexander poetry is also known for his wit. Wit means wisdom, and epigrammatic sharpness. Now, what is epigrammatic? That is very concise and to the point, and very specific. Punches are there. You know that the age is famous for their writing of satire. Dryden has become a master in that, master craftsman in using the satire. So, like Dryden and Pope's poetry is also more intellectual. In other words, you can say logical, analytical, rather than emotions. So you will not find any human emotions there, but they have attacked, they have centered around the reason. But as a result of childhood illness, Pope suffered from disability. But he has written such a fine poetry that he would be remembered forever. And there is one famous poem, The Rape of the Lock, which he has written, which is regarded as the classic. Now, what is the poem about? The poem An Essay on Man. So this poem is taken from the second epistle of Pope's long argumentative. Argumentative means in which he has analyzed, has given reasons, and argumentative poem that is called An Essay on Man. In this poem, the poet presents the contradictions. Contradiction means the paradox of man's nature in a logical or common sense manner. Okay. The poem begins with the old classical saying that the proper study of mankind is man. So there are, because this is the basic thing, if you want to study mankind, so you should focus upon the man. And You will not find anything useful or fertile if you go in the forest or in the lonely place to ponder, to think about the nature of man and his behavior. uh, so that will not be the right attitude. Uh, so that's why it is a classical saying that if you want to study mankind, then you must study man. Human beings' conditions is not stable, is not, you can say, fixed. They live, human beings' life is in a flux. Flux means it is moving, it is always changing. His life is full of paradoxes. In other words, contradictions. In this way, you can say that that how you contradictions means you can say that paradoxes. I hope that you understood the term contradictions, tazad or vipreet cheezeं as you call it in Hindi. So there is a contradiction in man's nature. The poet explains that it is better that a man examines of his own life. So we are the best judge of our thing, of our behavior, of our attitude, and all other things. This would provide him all solutions to all kind of problems. If we ponder, if we think about ourselves, that what we are doing, why we are sent, what our expectation. So if we focus upon our life, then we can solve many problems. The poet lists many contradictions of man's nature, जो विपरीत चीज़ें जो पाई जाती हैं, which is found in human beings, in human nature. He lists some of them. When a man reaches to a middle state, middle state means neither he is young nor old. He is past the youth and he is not old, but he is in a middle state. He considers himself greatly wise. This is his contradiction. That when he attains the middle age, he thinks that he knows everything. But as you know that there are many old fools like the young one. He behaves rudely and make fun of others. He poses that he knows everything, and he says to youngsters to use that you don't know anything as he knows it. Pope refers to two schools of philosophy. Here there is a turn, there is a twist in the poem. The poet refers to two schools of philosophy in ancient Greece. The first one was the skeptics. The skeptics believed that knowledge of the nature of things was unattainable by man, and so the proper attitude for him was to suspend judgment. What is that? That no man can attain the proper knowledge, the perfect knowledge, and he is not because that status is unattainable. So it is better that he should not pass any judgment on others. Now this is the skeptic's view. Now on the other hand, the Stoics taught that virtue is the highest good and suffering a matter of indifference. Stoics say that virtue is the highest good, that one must to try to maintain good. He should lead a virtuous life. Virtuous life means an honest life, which is not corrupted, which is not biased, which is not affected by any kind of evil or other things. We should follow the path of virtue. Virtue means goodness, and suffering a matter of indifference. And you know that when you are following the right path or the path of honesty, then it is natural that you face many kind of sufferings. So we should not bother about the sufferings because this is the way of life. Because when the gold is purified, then it passes through the fire. The fire purifies many things. The fire purifies the metal. So similarly, the suffering also makes the man of good character. You can say that. So, in spite of all odds, one should follow the virtuous path, the path of goodness, and don't consider, don't be defeated by the sufferings and you can say that the hardships. So we should keep patience and continue to follow the path of virtue. I hope that we have covered a lot part of the poem, but it is my first part of the poem. In my second lecture, that would be called the part 2 of this poem, we should discuss the remaining part of the poem. I hope that you keep on listening and enjoying the lecture. Thank you.